Hello everyone, this is Zooc and today I'm bringing you a new cooking video. This one is going to be how to nail a chicken 2 ways Romanian style. Now depending on what part of the country you're in, that might actually mean something completely different. In some of the more, let's say, rural areas, if you catch my drift. I know they do it to sheep, for sure. I don't know if they do it to chickens, but I'm telling you right now, Romania is the land of all possibilities, not the USA. Trust me on that one. Anyway, that's not my cup of tea. What we're going to be doing here is making 2 dishes from my childhood. Some of the Romanian staples, if you will. Very simple, very easy. I grew up on this shit. Both of these dishes were my favorites at some point throughout my childhood. I could eat them now, and I do, but I'm not as crazy about them as I used to be. Both of these appeal to kids for some reason. They're very popular with kids. But it's a decent way to get about 5 days worth of food out of one chicken, so almost a week. So it's you divide the chicken in half, you make one dish with half a chicken, the other dish with the other half of the chicken, and then you keep the scraps and you can use them to make a chicken soup with some dumplings and some vegetables in it. So technically you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 portions of food out of this. The 2 dishes I'm going to make are about 4 portions, but they're for a guy my size. For smaller people or girls, they might be more, depending on how much vegetable matter you choose to add. I'm not much for veggies. I prefer my meat in large piles, so these are about 4 portions for me. So we're going to start off with the chicken. Size doesn't really matter. That's what he says. I'm pretty sure she heavily disagrees. Regardless, just get a chicken. And the way to break down a chicken is actually quite simple. And I know this is something that a lot of people that don't have experience with cooking fear quite a bit. First off, you cut off its spine and pull a sort of a Mortal Kombat fatality on that poor fucker. And you rip out its spine. And then you cut around the shoulder joints of the wings, take out the wings. And then you cut around the... Well, it's very simple, really. If you take the chicken legs and bend them inwards, at some point they're going to snap. So you just cut around that joint with a sharp knife. And then you cut the breast in half. Trim off all the nasty bits. Trim off all the bones. And you have like 4 pieces perfectly broken down of chicken, which you can use. And the scraps, you can just like toss them in a pot, fry them up a bit, and make a soup out of them. Or just freeze them. Like my mom has a fucking half a freezer full of various chicken body parts just waiting to be used in some way or another. So it's a decent way to not have any wastage at all, really. Next step is to finely chop 1 large onion or 2 medium ones. This one is going to go in a chicken and peas dish. And also thickly slice about half a kilo or 1 pound of mushrooms. Now I'm going to talk about mushrooms because there's this fucking dumb controversy that's pissing me off. And it reminded me of an argument I had with one of my friend's sisters in real life a while ago. I was at their place, and we were doing some sort of barbecue or like get-together, and she started taking mushrooms out of the pack and throwing them in a dish, like that, just like that. And I was looking at it like, you know, you should wash these mushrooms, right? They have fucking dirt and shit on them. You realize that they're dirty. And she's like, no. What do you mean, no? They have dirt on them. Look at them. No, you don't wash mushrooms. With a tone that was like, bitch, please, you're teaching me? Like, I know my shit. I was like, look, I've been cooking for 7 years. You definitely do wash mushrooms. And she just fucking ignored me and added them. So, of course, I didn't eat any of them because I would like to not have shit in my mouth willingly, if possible. I realize heat kills the germs and whatever, but the idea is still there. Mushrooms are dirty. You should wash them. And the whole reason why this controversy even exists is because some people, by washing, they understand throwing the fucking mushrooms in a bucket of water and then forgetting about them and leaving them there to soak. Yeah, you should not soak mushrooms, definitely. They will absorb a lot of water. They are like sponges. But a quick rinse with a brush, just brush them a little bit to take the dirt off, that's definitely okay. Period. End of discussion. Wash your fucking mushrooms. They have shit on them. So anyway, thickly slice half a kilo of mushrooms, and that's it, after they're washed. The only other step in terms of prep is to finally chop 1 bunch of dill. Now with dill, I've seen that a lot of people, even when they grow up in countries where they do eat dill a lot, they hate it, some people. The particular dish with the peas, it kind of needs it. Sorry to say, like, it basically is the main flavoring in the whole shebang. So if you're allergic to dill or you hate the taste, add at least a little bit of it so as to not bother you. But honestly, like, I usually just add a whole bunch of it, like an entire fucking bunch, because I like the taste. I'm totally okay with it. I don't mind it at all. We grew up on this. There's dill in pickles. There's dill in this thing. There's dill everywhere here in Romania. So just, be mindful with it at the end. And just add a little bit, have a taste if it's okay. If you think you can handle more, add the whole thing, up to personal preference, really. Now let's get to some actual cooking, the exciting part. Set a fairly large pot under your biggest burner on the lowest flame. And I have to talk about pots. This is going to be a very detailed one because it's important to someone out there. I'm fairly certain of it. So listen, if you want a good quality pot that will last you forever, get a Le Creuset. They are cast iron enameled pots mostly. They have other materials as well. But get a cast iron enameled pot from this brand because they are basically the best in the world at what they do right now. Fairly sure of it. And the difference between this and just a regular Teflon pan is if you heat the Teflon to a certain temperature, it'll start to break down and become toxic and peel off in time. So you will lose it. That's guaranteed. Any Teflon pan will not last a long time. That's fact. With these pots, you can heat them to a much higher temperature for a much longer time. They will not break down and they retain heat much better because the Teflon pans are usually cast in aluminum. That doesn't retain heat very well. It's a very light metal. Heat dissipates fast. It has a lot of hot spots. With cast iron, it does have a lot of hot spots as well. There's a popular myth going on that cast iron heats evenly. It doesn't. It doesn't heat evenly, but it retains the heat very well. And it spreads evenly eventually if you keep it on the flame long enough. But people are afraid to cook in both stainless steel and cast iron because they're a bit higher maintenance than your usual shitty Teflon pan, which you can just throw cold on the fire and put some shit in it and eventually it'll cook. But I prefer to not take the easy way out of something most of the time because if you put in the time and effort, you get more rewards for it. So the time and effort in this particular case is letting the pot heat up properly. Cast iron and steel are both porous metals. So if you don't heat them up to a certain temperature, the pores remain open and whatever you put on the surface will stick. If the pores close from the heat, right? And then you put oil in, that basically creates a non-stick coating. So that's the only difference. And also you get a much better browning effect because you can heat the pot up more and you don't have to fuck around with some Teflon bullshit. Just trust me. Get one of these pots or get there's another brand as well called Staub. I think they're okay. They're a bit lower in price, but I prefer the high quality shit. So if you want to give a gift to someone that likes to cook, get them one of these pots. They'll be fucking thrilled if they know anything about cooking. So after the pot heated up for about 2 minutes, remember, no oil. 2 minutes on a low flame. You put the oil in, you wait for it to come to smoking point. That's alright with vegetable oil. And then you add your meat, skin side down. If you can help it, always get chicken with skin on it, because if you're going to fry it or brown it, it's much better flavor. All that fat renders out. The fat is called schmaltz. They sell it in Jewish stores in the jar, as far as I know. And it's really tasty, and it's a shame to throw it away. I don't eat chicken skin. I usually just toss it after it's cooked. But while cooking, it definitely helps to have it on there because it's flavor. You want to keep as much flavor in the bird as you can. So put the chicken skin side down. Keep the flame on low. Brown it for about 6-7, actually no, it took about 6-7 minutes on the skin side, and then turn it around, brown it for another 3 minutes. Take the meat out and add your onions. So saute those onions for about 4 minutes in the chicken fat and oil combo, and afterwards put the chicken back in. Careful with the onion because it easily burns. You got to keep stirring it. Put the chicken back in, put about 400 mils of water in there, and a couple of pinches of chicken-flavored maggi that we use in Romania, or Vegeta, if you have it, or Delicat, or whatever, any of those flavor enhancers that are available. It's basically the same shit. If you don't want to use any of that, just add about 3 pinches of salt, some pepper, and that's it, really. And just put the lid on, let it come to a boil, and I'm going to make the other dish, the chicken and sour cream and mushroom one, while this shit is boiling. With the second dish, it's pretty much the same deal as with the first. You brown the chicken, skin side down, same amount of minutes, same amount of time. Turn it around, brown it on the second side as well. Take it out, and add your mushrooms. Now, these mushrooms are going to let off a whole bunch of water. Just let that reduce for a little bit. I've seen some crazy people actually drain the mushrooms and throw away all that water, which is not just plain water. It has a lot of flavor in it, like the mushroom flavor. So it's much better to just let it reduce it down and concentrate. And meanwhile, while that's happening, take out the lid after about 20 minutes. Take off the lid from the first dish. Add about 800 to 900 grams of peas. It doesn't really matter. You can add a whole fuckload of them if you like peas, or not so many if you don't. Choice is up to you. And about 300 grams of tomato puree. Not tomato paste, mind you. Tomato puree. Just pureed tomatoes. Simple. Mix that in. It's going to be very watery at the beginning. That's okay. That needs to boil for a little bit with the lid off this time. And basically, it's ready when it's ready. Like the chicken should be cooked at a some point throughout all this, hopefully. If not, you're fucked. Enjoy salmonella. But no, it really should be cooked down because it spent about half an hour in there at least. So just let it reduce. And when the sauce is not watery anymore, I prefer not to use fixed times because different stoves, different pots, different surface areas, giving fixed times is really stupid. You have to use your intuition for this stuff. The more you can recognize when something is done and learn to recognize it that way, the better off you'll be as a cook for all kinds of dishes. So when the water has evaporated and the sauce is a bit thicker, then it's basically done. So at that point, you add the dill, more salt, more pepper, you have a taste, see if you like it. Add whatever the hell you want. In the end, I prefer to keep it pure. Just peas, tomatoes, Vegeta, which is the impurest thing ever, and dill. And that's it. That is the dish. This reheats very well. It's very easy to make and very good. And now with the other one, with the sour cream one, after the water has evaporated, let's say half of the water evaporated, you put the chicken back in, you put more water in, and then you just let that one boil as well with the lid off. After a while, if the chicken still seems a bit raw inside, you can cut into it and check it out. You can put the lid on for a while, for about 10 minutes. And the final step to that, once there has to be a decent amount of liquid in it, because that's basically going to be half the sauce, right? So you take the chicken out, you leave the mushrooms with the liquid in, and you put about 400 grams of sour cream, the sour kind. This one has 20% fat, the one I'm using. Mind you, now there's something called cooking cream, which is not sour at all. It's basically like whipping cream. Do not use that. It's a bit tasteless. I prefer the real deal. The sour one is good. Mixed in with 1 tablespoon of flour, right, in the sour cream. And then you slowly take some liquid, doesn't matter if you grab some mushrooms, from the pot and temper the sour cream. Because if you put a dairy product like that, yogurt as well, this is valid for yogurt too. If you put it on a hot liquid, it's going to curdle and separate. While if you temper it, gradually adding a bit of hot liquid to it until it sort of evens out the temperature, it'll prevent it from curdling from the thermal shock once you add it to the pot, and it'll actually be a very smooth and nice sauce. Once it comes to a boil, the flour in it will thicken it a bit, so you have to watch out for that. If it's too thick, if it looks like it's like a pudding almost, that's not good. You can add more water to it, a bit more salt as well to balance out the flavor. This dish works well with a lot of pepper. If you happen to have white pepper, that's preferable in a white sauce. Who the fuck has that in their house, right? So just add normal pepper instead. Let's not bullshit ourselves. And you put the chicken back in, and you just let it boil for a little bit and just keep mixing. And just keep an eye out on how thick the sauce is. I happened to add 2 tablespoons of flour. That was too much, because then I had to dilute the sauce quite a bit. But one big tablespoon of flour should be more than enough to thicken like an entire pot of this thing. And you just have a taste. If you like it, if you think it needs more salt, that's fine. You can add even a bit of sugar to it if you want. You can add sugar to anything, preferably the peas one as well. Like 1 sprinkling of sugar will make it really sweet. The peas are sweet themselves, so that's fine. But if you want a bit more sweetness, it works really well with this dish. It's 1 pinch of sugar. And that is basically it at this point. You have 2 very good, very easy dishes that family style, that you can serve or eat yourself. They reheat both of them very well. It's totally cool to just microwave them, even the sour cream one. If you put it in the fridge overnight, once you take it out, it's basically going to be solid, the sour cream. But that's fine. Just put it, I just ate it today. Put it in a microwave dish, microwave it for about 6-7 minutes. 7 minutes, I'd say, for like half a chicken breast. It should heat it up pretty much all the way through. And that's it. That's it. Some very simple Romanian fare here. Hope you guys enjoy it and give it a shot. Let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching. Please rate that shit if you found it enjoying. If you enjoyed it. If you found it joyful. If you found me joyful and entertaining. Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.